it's a serious talk and I've got a lot of information in it, but I thought I'd do a dedication because there's been so many super pictures that people have been putting on the chat line of the moon. So I thought I'd put a dedication to all LAS members who've recently put photographs and learned comments about the moon on the chat line. And I've managed to get a photograph of John Arnold, Steve Strickland and Rod. I think there might be some other members of the society that I couldn't find on the day. So I hope you like yourself represented as those birds on the tree. And I thought as well, because I'm talking about the Mare Crisium, which means the Sea of Crises, I'd try to find a cartoon about it. And the only cartoon I could find was this one about crisis management, about the chicken who has an acorn falls on its head and runs around saying the sky's falling, the sky's falling. And when I'd actually put it on, I realized that the nutter actually looked slightly like me actually. So I was a little bit worried about that. Okay, the top left, what a mare is. I'm going to give you some more detailed information in a minute, but the result of impacts which created oceans of molten rock that formed the dark areas on the moon. Okay. There are currently 23 mares, with 4 what are called former mares, or Maria I should have said. They cover about 15% of the moon's surface. Most of them are on the near side. In fact, there's only 3 on the far side, and the 3 on the far side only cover about 1% of the dark side of the moon. They're dry plains, no moisture there, but they were thought to be once lakes of liquid lava that's actually hardened into volcanic rock, basalt. Okay, and I'm going to look at some of the names first before I go on to concentrate on Mare Crisium. And I love this quote of Patrick Moore in his book on the moon. He said, the names that are given to the lunar Maria are romantic indeed, distinctly inappropriate because showers, rainbows, nectar and storms are unknown on the moon. Okay, 3 ways in which they can get names according to the International Astronomical Union. These are the 3 agreed things that can get a name given to one. Obviously nobody's going to discover another one now, it's highly unlikely. First of all, it could be sea features. So you've got Mare Imbrium, the Sea of Showers, and you've got Mare Insularum, the Sea of Islands, and there's some others that have got names like that. Or secondly, there's sea attributes, can't even say the word. The Mare Australe, the Southern Sea, Mare Orientale, the Eastern Sea. Strangely enough, the 3rd category is states of mind. So you've got the Sea of Serenity, the Sea of Tranquility, the Sea of Crises, which is the one I'm talking about tonight. But even more stranger, there are 2 of the lunar Maria that are named after people. The Mare Humboldtianum, that's named after Alexander von Humboldt, a German who lived from 1769 to 1859, who was an all-purpose intellectual polymath. I mean, if you see the list of what he was an expert in, it was all sorts of things. And the one on the right, which is the Mare Smithii, it's actually looking across on this photograph, the crater looking towards the Earth, and that's named after an English astronomer in the 19th century called William Henry Smythe. Okay, that's fine, but there's one more that's a bit of a mystery. On the dark side of the moon, this one, the Mare Moscoviense, or the Mare Moscovi, the Sea of Moscow. It was discovered by the Soviets in 1959, and it was given its name in 1961. You might say, well, that's nothing to do with an attribute or feature of the sea, and nor is it to do with a state of mind. And I'm not joking here. This is what the International Astronomical Union said at the time. They said, okay, let's treat Moscow as a state of mind. How on earth they got that, I don't know, and whether it was them having a bit of a laugh or 2 fingers up at the Soviet Union, but that's been included as well. And as I say, that's on the dark side of the moon. Okay, the Mare Crisium. The name comes from Latin, as do all the names of all the lunar seas, and it means the Sea of Crises. It was named by Giovanni Riccioli, so I'm going to say something about him in a minute, in 1651. On an early map by William Gilbert, who was an Elizabethan doctor, in 1600, he gave it the name Britannia because he was obviously being very patriotic. It was later called by certain astronomers the Caspian Sea, and Thomas Harriot, among others, on his map, which I'm going to show you in a minute, he called it the Caspian Sea. It's between 4.55 and 3.85 billion years old. It's 556 kilometers or 345 miles in diameter. Very strange, because I've got by the side of me Patrick Moore's book on the moon, and on one page in the book Patrick Moore says it's 260 by 355 miles, and then another page at the back he says 280 by 350 miles. So it's very strange that Patrick Moore gives two estimates which are not the estimates that are given on the internet, which is what I've given here. And the way I thought about it today is, think about 345 miles, roughly 3 trips to Whitby. Sorry, 3 trips to Whitby and back again, 6 trips in all. It should give you somewhere around about 345, 350 miles. I'm going to show you in a minute, I'm going to show you it compared with the British Isle, compared to the surface of the moon. The area of the Sea of Crises is 176,000 square kilometers, or 68,000 square miles. It's oval in shape, described in one book as an exceptional formation, lunar basin, which I've already said, and a large part of it flooded by the impact of an asteroid in the distant past. There's a picture. Somebody's nicely gone and pasted a map of the British Isles in the middle, and the Mare Crisium is over on the right, and it's slightly above centre, and obviously if you're looking at it through a telescope it swaps over and it's over on the other side, but it gives you some idea that you know, it would approximate in some respects to the British Isles. The British Isles probably a little bit slightly bigger. Okay, this is William Gilbert, an Elizabethan doctor. He died in 1603, so the star map is round about 1600. It was based on naked eye observations, and it's not bad. You can see the Sea of Crises over on the right hand side, called Britannia, with 2 T's and 2 N's in it. This is actually a modern map done by somebody else who's put the writing a little bit more clearly. On the original map, you'll see you're struggling a little bit to read William Gilbert's handwriting, but you can see the Sea of Crisium over on the right hand side, and it is actually quite unusual because it is actually on its own, separate, and not joined to the 9 major large seas that are on the near side of the moon, which is probably why I find it interesting. Here's Thomas Harriot's map, which according to Patrick Moore, not me, was based on observations that he'd done through a telescope, and you'll see it's got a number, it's 18. If I can just go back to that map, you'll see it looks pretty elongated on there, and it looks fairly elongated on here. Now you come to Johannes Hevelius's map of 1647, this beautiful moon map, and you can see it over on the right hand side, and you can see it's kind of getting a little bit more circular in shape, if I can put it that way. You probably can't read the writing. What it actually says there, it actually does say at the bottom, De Nove Caspium, the new Caspian Sea, okay? But you have to wait a few more years, 4 more years, to 1651 for this guy, an Italian astronomer called Giovanni Battista Riccioli. I was a bit worried reading about him today, because guess how old he was when he died? Exactly 73, which is my age, so I shouldn't be reading about people who die at the same age as me. This is his lovely moon map, which has all the craters, nearly all of them, and the seas, all named in Latin, and you can see the Mare Crisium on the right-hand side. Most of these names have been retained, and they are still the names that we use today for all these things on the moon. The picture on the left, it's pure coincidence. It looks like it's actually pointing to the moon map. Is not. They are two separate, completely separate illustrations. And he wrote a book, Riccioli, Father Riccioli, who was a Jesuit priest, Almagestum Novum, his new stellar Almagest, based on Ptolemy's, and he was writing a new one for the modern world. Okay, I'm going to take my first detour, and if you're scared of heights, you might need to close your eyes now. Father Riccioli went up the right-hand tower, which is in Bologna, called the Asinelli Tower. This was two towers built in Bologna in the 12th century. And the one on the right-hand side, it shows you the view there from the top, from the balcony. Father Riccioli, as well as his astronomy, was also famous for, I think I'm right, David Sellers no doubt will correct me if I'm wrong, determining the actual acceleration of falling bodies, and not bodies, of course, you know, balls or objects. So he went to the top of this tower, he had people helping him, and he dropped objects from the top, and they were timed how long it took to reach the bottom. I sincerely hope that there weren't anybody standing around at the bottom when he did that. You'll see, by the way, the second tower is slightly smaller, which these were two Italian aristocratic families who were competing with each other to see who could build the highest tower. And the one on the right, the one we're talking about, the Asinelli Tower, was the one that, if you like, won the prize. This is the staircase going up. With my fear of heights, I don't think you'd get me going up that staircase. But however, if I did go up to the top, it's nice and safe. Here's somebody looking out. And just in case you're not convinced that that is the view from the top, if you look at the building on the left at the bottom, it's got 3 stories and 7 windows, which is that same building there, which is in the background there. So you know that that's the view from the top there. There's another view here, which makes it look as though there are certain places you can stand where it's a bit wider, but that's the view from the top. Okay, just last of all, Giovanni Roccelli is credited, but people dispute it now, that he discovered the double star, which is the last but one on the Big Dipper or the plough, Mizar and Alcor. There is some dispute as to whether he actually did discover it, but I thought it was nice to share that with you anyway. If he did, he did. If he didn't, he didn't. Right, okay. What's the shape of the Mare Crisium? Now, if you think about it, until the Apollo missions of the 1960s, most people saw it from the Earth, either through a telescope or naked eye, and it looked round. That's because you're looking at it at a slight angle. With the Apollo mission, somebody was able to finally take a photograph of it directly above it, looking down, and you can see it definitely is an oval shape. Slightly irregular on the right-hand side, fairly smooth on the left-hand side. And that, I believe, I hope I'm right, is a NASA map of the same area. Okay, the strange case of the missing spacecraft, Luna 15. Round about the time that Apollo 11 went up, in fact the same month, July, the Soviets launched one of their lunar spacecraft. There were 24 lunar spacecrafts in all. They were unmanned and they were sent up to get samples. This cartoon about the next one, the Luna 16 samples, I think is quite funny. Frankly, comrade, I don't think bringing back the heel of a space boot and what looks like the remains of Neil Armstrong's lunch is a great step forward for Soviet science. But it was thought, and the Soviets thought they could get to the moon first, get back to the Earth first, they'd get all the credit. However, what happened was it crashed, and it crashed in the Mare Crisium, and it shows you there the Luna 15, what it looked like, the Luna 15 spacecraft. It shows you where Apollo 11 landed and where Luna 15 landed. And the reason I've called it the case of a disappearing spacecraft is because in Patrick Moore's book, you go straight from Luna 14 to talking about Luna 16, and Patrick Moore doesn't even mention Luna 15. And another book I've got, The Moon, an Owner's Manual, again gives it about half a dozen lines of text. And of course, at the time, there was an article in one of the papers, I think it was the New York Times, which said that the Soviet Union today virtually ignored Luna 15, the unmanned spacecraft that held the world in suspense for more than a week before apparently crashing on the moon's surface yesterday. And as I say, it crashed in the Mare Crisium. Launched 3 days ahead of Apollo 11, Luna 15 was regarded by many observers as the Soviet unmanned rival to the 3 astronauts. Some believe that Luna 15 would land on the moon, pick up some rock samples, and race Apollo back to Earth in an effort to upstage the American effort. But when it went into orbit, it came within 10 miles of the lunar surface, but it crashed. And you find it's quite difficult to find references to it. In fact, it's like I say, it's almost as if it didn't happen. That's a picture of the following one, Luna 16, that went up later. Those lunar spacecraft, they almost look like science fiction characters. It looks almost like a character with a long nose. They're quite strange. Whatever. Some were successful, obviously. The 2 actually did go and did come back quite successfully. But as I say, Luna 15 disappeared without trace. Right. Just mention that there are 3 craters, major craters in the Mare Crisium: Swift, Pierce, and Piccard. Piccard is not referring to Jean-Luc Picard of Star Trek, but it was a Jean Piccard who was a 17th century French astronomer. Benjamin Pierce was an American mathematician, and Lewis Swift was an American, also in the 19th century, astronomer. I thought you'd just like to see this because there's 4 small moons, the Mare Undarum, just to the right of Mare Crisium, and below that Mare Spumans, and Mare Marginis and Mare Smithii, that I've already mentioned. Mare Undarum means the Sea of Waves, Mare Spumans means the Foaming Sea, Mare Marginis, Sea of the Edge, and Mare Smithii, which I say managed to get in, even though it's not a feature of the sea or anything to do with the sea. It's the name of an actual person. I thought I'd put this in to end with, because I thought Andy might find this amusing. I looked up what a character might look like if it was named Mare Crisium, and this splendid creature came up in purple and yellow, who is Mare Crisium. And with that, I'll say thank you very much for listening. Thank you.